Hello, Vol Nation, and welcome to the Summit. I'm your host, Allison Seaton, and I'm here with Alexi Cohen, Sophie Starkey, and Catherine Ligon. This week, we will be covering the Lady Vols softball team, breaking down their performance as of lately and their new limits regarding social media. This past weekend, the number 4 Lady Vols took on number 7 LSU without losing a series this season. On Friday, the Lady Vols won 3-0, but lost 1-0 on Saturday, despite pulling out the series win on Sunday 3-0. What do you all think happened to the Lady Vols on Saturday? What do you think the team should take away from this?
Yeah, I think obviously the game on Saturday was a little bit disappointing. We lost 1-0. It was kind of a pitching battle, but I thought it was interesting that, you know, our pitcher Pickens only allowed 3 hits and no walks, but their pitcher allowed 5 hits and 2 walks, but we lost the game. So I think it was not that we couldn't get on base. We had 7 people on base. We just left them on base, and that's not good. We need to capitalize on those kind of things. And, you know, one pitch gets a home run, obviously. And so that's what happened. And ultimately, you know, we still had 3 innings after that to get past that, but we weren't able to. But I think overall in the series, I thought we did pretty well. I like that Pickens came out and also pitched the day after, too. I thought that kind of showed some mental toughness of the team, especially going into our last SEC series this weekend. I thought it was good.
Definitely. I definitely think there was a slow offensive start, especially Saturday and Sunday. I mean, Sunday we didn't score till the bottom of the 6th. And then Saturday, we didn't score at all. But we've just got to, we can get people on base. We just can't get them home sometimes. And I feel like that's what happened there is we just couldn't get them home.
Yeah, for sure. I really think both games were just a huge defensive battle. Super strong both ends on pitching. We held, in Saturday's game, we held till 0-0 till the 4th inning. Then obviously they got that 1 hit, and then LSU's Kelly Lynch was able to hold Tennessee to only 5 hits. There are just some games where your bats aren't hot, and honestly I think it wasn't too detrimental to Tennessee because obviously they pulled out a win right after that, but they just sometimes our girls just get trapped on base and our bats aren't hot. But I was really proud of our pitching team. They still did amazing, and obviously our softball team has a lot to look forward to still in their power.
For sure. I definitely agree with y'all's takes. I want to talk about how Tennessee faced off against Belmont on Tuesday for a weekend matchup, or midweek matchup, my apologies. The team shut out the Bruins 9-1 with back-to-back home runs, giving the team their 18th program win against Belmont. How does this team's power play into their wins? Who do you think was a valuable player during this matchup on Tuesday?
Well, I think one thing about this team is they're very powerful. They can hit, they can pitch. We have a lot of talent on this team. We had a fabulous 9-1 run roll against Belmont, but I think it's easier to see our power when we are facing against unranked teams like Belmont. Now, when it comes into SEC play, it gets a little harder to see that power. So I think that's what we need to work on is flexing that batting power that we have against SEC pitchers and ranked teams pitchers and just see how that plays out.
Yeah, kind of like what Alexi said, we're stacked everywhere. We've got infield, outfield, pitching, batting. I mean, we're the whole package. We're a team to be reckoned with for sure. And I think most of our power comes out when we're at home. We've won 22 of the last 24 home games. I mean, we are to be feared at home. And valuable players, I could say something about everyone, obviously, but you just got to look to pitching. I mean, it is just the center of the game and obviously where one of our strengths are.
Absolutely, I agree. What I liked about the game on Tuesday is I think it was really a morale boost for the team, like what we needed after going, you know, I think it was 13 innings in a total, like not scoring straight against LSU. That was really hard, and I think this was able to, you know, boost the morale, realize that we can hit. What I loved is Kiki Malloy got a home run, and it's actually, she's on a drought. It's been 13 games since she got a home run, which is crazy for Kiki. I mean, she leads the program in home runs, so it was good to see her get that. And then I think also the 2 home runs at the end by players that don't really play as much, and just seeing the team being really happy for them, that was super awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I love y'all's takes as always, but last week both Karen Weekly and Zeta Pooney met with the media. During this, they were both asked to share more about how the team has been limiting social media to focus on the season and the team as a whole. What are y'all's takes on this, and do y'all think more teams should be implementing these limits?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the team, to be honest. Some people love the exposure. They love it for branding. They love being able to explain previous events that happened or what's going to happen. But, you know, softball really doesn't owe me any explanation at all. They leave it all on the field every time. I'm not asking any questions. I completely trust them, their staff, their coaches, their rotation. And I think it's okay. If they think it's best for their team, that they don't want to, give away what's happening or
keep
talk
in
about.
mind the limiting of the social media isn't them not posting as much. It's these girls staying off their phones and keeping their eyes off from negative critiques, or like they do a check-in every Sunday to make sure that they don't go over their hours.
Oh yeah, for sure. Mental battle is half of it. I mean, these players are under a pressure we're never going to experience, and having a bad game for them can be nationwide, and they can get that backlash. I absolutely think it's a positive move to not be able to kind of intake all of those negative comments, but I'm not questioning anything they're doing. They're obviously killing it out there.
For sure, I agree. Now, I love that the idea was initiated by the team and not just Karen Weekly saying, hey, you need to get off your phone. It was a team decision, and I love that. And I don't think it will affect the performance as much as it will affect the mental battle of it. I mean, I think everybody could use a break from social media. I know my life would be 100 times better if I stayed off Instagram a couple times, but I think it'll definitely increase the team bonding, and I think that's what they need. I mean, they have a lot already, but I think, a bunch of newcomers coming in, this will be good for them to build that family aspect, like us.
Like us.
Exactly. I mean, I couldn't say it better myself, really. No, I definitely think that I love what you said, that it was a player initiated thing. They all watched The Social Dilemma together, and they came back and were like, we're going to limit our screen time, and they hold each other accountable, like you said, their Sunday check-ins, and none of them have gone over. No, not that we know. But but I just think that's really awesome, and it really shows team morale, and I think it'll bode well for them. But I also agree with what you said. It depends on the team, and they still are posting, they still have their NIL deals, but it is, we don't understand the scrutiny they're under. We're not D1 athletes, so I can see how it would help them, and I agree that honestly everyone could use a little break from social media sometimes.
I mean, personally, I don't see football doing that in the slightest.
No, not at all.
All right, well, it's time for us to wrap up here for the summit. Thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. Have a good night, and go Vols.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Orange Zone. I'm your host, Jackson Schock, alongside Zach Pelfrey, Luca Talon, Colton Pennington. Let's jump right in. The number 4 Tennessee Volunteer squad traveled up to Lexington to take on the 3rd-ranked Wildcats in a top-4 matchup. The Vols fell in the first game of the weekend 5-3, but rallied back in game 2 and 3, and they won 9-4 and 13-11. Now, you guys watched the series. What impressed you the most as you finished the 3-game series, which was, by the way, amazing baseball? It was fun to watch.
It was a really, really good series. That game 3 especially was awesome. I mean, home runs all over the place. It was great. But, I mean, we can hit the baseball, man. I mean, for real. I mean, we're probably the best hitting team in the country. I mean, we've got, I think, 5 players with 14 or more home runs. In the games 2 and 3, we hit 4 home runs in each game. Christian Moore hit 3 in game 3. So, I mean, we're hitting the ball really, really good. And Kentucky is one of the best pitching staffs in the country. And in game 2 and 3, we showed that we can hit the ball against any team in the country. And so that makes you optimistic going forward for sure, too.
Yeah, and I mean, the difference from game 1 to the other 2 games was the hitting as well. Like the first game, the Big Four, which was Christian Moore, Blake Burke, Billy Amick, and Kavaris Tears, they all each had 1 hit. And that's not going to get the job done that much against Kentucky. But the second games, I mean, Christian Moore, I think, had 8 hits, 8 RBIs, and 4 home runs in the last 2 games. That's a little bit better stat line and kind of what we're used to seeing from him this season. But, I mean, definitely the offense of this team is just incredible. Tons of power, tons of, ability to score runs, which is, kind of helps in baseball.
And it kind of helps. Christian Moore, like we've been saying, he is the MVP of these past couple games with that 3rd home run right at the end of, not the end of regulation, but the end of the 8th inning, which put us up 13-9. I mean, kind of sealed the Wildcats' fate at that point.
Now, this made you guys all said positive things, so it's a dumb question. But, I mean, does this bring you optimism? Is there anything you really are kind of concerned about as we head into the College World Series? And, I mean, we're posed that we should make a good run here. I mean, what's really worrying you? What's optimistic besides hitting? Obviously, you guys all kind of keyed in on it. What's kind of worrying you right now?
I mean, the pitching is a little bit worrying. We still don't have a set starting rotation. I mean, Drew Beam and Xander Sechrist have been pretty good all year. But that 3rd starter, that Friday starter, is still not nailed on. A.J. Russell was who everybody thought it would be, but he's only pitched 4 times this year. Nothing's come out about him being injured or anything, but I'm guessing he's injured because there's no reason why he wouldn't be pitching if he wasn't there. But we've thrown out like A.J. Causey, all kinds of other relievers to try and fill that spot, and no one's really stepped up and said, this is my spot, I'm going to be starting here going forward. But we do have a lot of good players in the bullpen. Kirby Cannell's been pitching pretty good. I love Marcus Phillips, the JUCO transfer. He was the #1 JUCO player in the country. He'd been hurt for a lot of the year, but he came back and threw that last out against Kentucky to get us win that game on Sunday. Yeah, I think that the pitching is the worrying thing because we've already talked about the hitting is so good. I don't have any doubts about the hitting going forward, but the pitching is what could let us down a little bit, I think.
Do you think not having a true number one guy kind of bodes well for the Volunteers as I mean, if you think about it, if you don't have a number one guy, you've got three guys thinking they're number one. Do you think that helps, or do you think it's really you need one guy that is really your starter and have others? I mean, what's the mindset there?
Well, I mean, in baseball, you play a 3-game series, so you've got to have 3 really good pitchers, at least 2 to win the 2 games.
Sure.
But I think coming out of the bullpen, we really need a guy to step up in the bullpen. Nate Snead has been really, really good. But when you look at like our past Omaha teams, Chase Burns last year was just unbelievable in the postseason. He was just amazing. And back in I think it's 2021, we had the guys like Redmond Walsh, Sean Hunley, these guys who just nails. Like every time you come out the bullpen, you know they're going to give you pretty much no runs. They may give up a hit or 2, but they're going to keep you in the game. And we don't have a guy like that to me on this team that has showed that he is that guy. Nate Snead could be out. I talk about Marcus Phillips, but I really think that's the difference maker for this team going forward. We got to have a guy step up in the bullpen.
Any worries from you guys?
To me, it's just not taking games for granted. I mean, you can tell that we can win against high-level opponents like Kentucky, but early in the year we had close games against UNC Asheville and Southern Indiana, a blowout loss against Georgia. So I think for me, it's just knowing that yes, we are a good team, yes, we can play well, but not taking any games for granted against some of these teams that we're going to come up against.
Zach, anything to add?
I mean, we have the same storyline kind of with all 3 big sports across. We know how to get there, but we don't know how to finish the job. We've been to Omaha the past 3 years, but we haven't, had that next step. We haven't made it to the next rounds.
Now, real quick, we'll end on this. Is this the team to bring a World Series to Tennessee? Right now, I mean, you just watched them. They're 3rd in the nation as we speak. Is this the team?
I mean, they've got to be up there. I mean, it's one of the best teams we've ever seen. But, I mean, I keep going back to 2022. I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that team. That was maybe the best college baseball team of all time. Like, they were that good. I think they finished the season 50-7 going into the postseason. They didn't lose a series all year, and then they get to the Super Regional against Notre Dame, and they can't get it done. So baseball is just unpredictable. You can't really predict it. But like I mentioned before, the hitting on this team is maybe better than any team in the country, so we're going to be good from that standpoint. But I've mentioned this 2 or 3 times now. We've got to have the pitching step up. They're the difference with how this team goes. We've got to have a couple guys step up. I mean, Drew Beam, this is his 3rd year. He's been in the rotation for 3 years. He's got to do it. Xander Sechrist has been in and out. He was a midweek starter for the last couple seasons, but he's been really, really good this year. And we've got to have some guys step up in the bullpen. But I would not be surprised if this team went to Omaha and won the College World Series whatsoever. I think we would be favorites to go to Omaha right now. Once you get in the World Series, it's tough, but I think we have a really, really good shot.
Glad to hear.
I'm in agreement with that. I mean, I think this team is the best offensive team in the country. We're number 1 in all of D1 baseball with 427 runs. We have 115 home runs, 9 grand slams, and 27 stolen bases. I mean, we're getting the job done offensively. So I think so long as we can, stop the other team from scoring that much, I think we're prepped for a good run.
A 20-19 win is still a win. So that is definitely builds confidence. Zach.
I would like to think that this is a really good baseball team, but like you were saying, that 2022 team, that was a magical year. I mean, we just had, it seemed like every hit was almost a home run. It was just amazing to watch. But this team, is definitely up there. Like you said, very high-powered offense. The pitching, like Colton's been saying, has kind of worried me a little bit because we get into these high offensive games where it's just who's gonna score last is gonna come out on top. Right. So I'd say we could make a run, but don't hold your breath just yet.
Well, we hope so. We certainly hope so. That's all the time we have for the first half of this Orange Zone. Thank you so much for watching the first. We're going to keep it going. When we come back, we're going to talk about the NFL Draft, which starts in about 3.5 hours, so it'll be fresh. In the meantime, we're going to send it over to the Rocky Top crew. That's Brendan, Matt, and Caitlin. We'll see you soon. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Orange Zone. That's Zach, Luke, Colton. I'm Jackson Schock. The 2024 NFL Draft takes place tonight at 8 p.m. Now, we understand that you've seen every mock draft under the sun, so we're going to try and cover everything else. Well, let's start with a simple question. If you were an NFL GM, who is one guy that you absolutely need? Luke, we'll start with you.
I love to build defenses, so I'm going to look at the defensive players in this draft, and I'm going with Dallas Turner. I think he is by far the best defensive player in this draft from Alabama, and part of the reason I really like him is because he's got speed. I love speed in linebackers. I think it's a very undervalued quality. And he had 11 sacks, 15 tackles for loss last year with Alabama. He's the kind of guy who he will put pressure on anybody, and he can be anywhere on the field because of his speed. So I think he's going to be a guy that a lot of teams are going to be going after because they want that kind of fast guy to put pressure on the quarterback and kind of be all over the place.
Nice. I'm sure. By the way, GMs are, I'm sure, tuned in right now. So be careful about who you talk about. If you're talking about someone that's not on your favorite team, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, that's a pretty obvious pick. He's like the 4th overall pick. But I just see too many people that are trading up to take Jaden Daniels or J.J. McCarthy over Marvin Harrison Jr., and that just doesn't make any sense to me. There's no way that any GM could think that in like 5 or 10 years' time that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be less impactful than those two quarterbacks. To me, the Cardinals have to take him at 4. They don't trade back. I'm a Patriots fan at 3. I would love to have Marvin Harrison Jr. But there's rumors that we're going to trade back, take a quarterback. I don't get it. Marvin Harrison Jr. is one of the best wide receiver prospects we've seen in a really, really long time, and he'd be my guy that I have to have for sure.
Now, do you see anybody trading up to get him if they really need that wide receiver position filled?
I don't
And if
know.
so, who?
I don't know because you'd have to trade up to either 3 or 4, and you're gonna have to give up a lot. And also, if you look at some of the other receivers in this class, this is a deep wide receiver class. Guys like Roma Dunze, Malik Neighbors, those guys are really, really good too. So I don't know if there's a lot of teams that would be willing to give up a lot to get them to get Marvin Harrison Jr. But I think the Cardinals are maybe the best fit for him. I mean, they've got Kyler Murray, who's a really, really good quarterback, and they've got him at 4. I think they just pick him, and I think it's that simple.
Makes sense, Zach?
If I'm an NFL GM, I'm taking a wide receiver in the early rounds because wide receivers, in my opinion, I think are more of game changers than quarterbacks are. We've seen, low-level quarterbacks with high-value receivers. Jared Goff, who we all love Jared Goff, but he's not one of the greatest quarterbacks. But we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's had his second consecutive 1,000-plus yard season. So, and then we have Brock Purdy on the 49ers. He's got Debo. He's got Ayuk, So I would say a wide receiver. Malik Neighbors is my pick. I think he would be very good on any team. I think the Patriots, I think they're going to get Malik Neighbors.
Interesting.
But I say wide receivers.
All right, I'm going to rebound and bounce back to you. Underrated pick. Who's a guy that's kind of flown under the radar that you think is going to be a steal, not maybe necessarily, maybe not a lottery pick, but just someone that you think is really going to be an impactful player that's flying under the radar?
This is going to be an interesting one, but I'm going to choose Bo Nix out of Oregon.
Okay.
So, Bo Nix is a guy who I've always kind of enjoyed watching him. He's just a strong, hard-nosed quarterback. He kind of reminds me of Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay.
He's got a big arm, and he's got some size to him. Now, at Auburn, he didn't really perform as much, but when he went to Oregon those past 2 years, he performed really well, and he shows that he can play ball. Now, unfortunately, they did lose to another guy who was on my list, which is Michael Penix Jr., both times. But I still think Bo Nix, I think he's got what it takes. He's a little older, but he's got what it takes to be an NFL quarterback.
Now, is Bo Nix the one that has been in college since Herbert's been in the NFL? Is that a thing? Or they both
probably,
started at the same time?
I think he's like
He's
26.
experienced.
He's like 26.
He's definitely
or
got
something.
some years
He
on
and
him.
Penix are definitely experienced. Colton, who's your underrated player?
Yeah, I don't talk about Tennessee too much on this show just because I don't want to be biased, but Jalen Wright's my pick. I mean, I see him being mocked. I mean, 5th, 6th round sometimes. It's like, how do you watch him play this year and think that he's that low? I mean, he's definitely a top 2 or 3 running back in this class for sure. If he makes it past the 3rd round, that's a steal for anybody after that. I think he should go in the 2nd or 3rd. He's so fast, maybe one of the fastest, if not the fastest running back in this whole class. And I think he's going to be a starting running back in the NFL for a really long time, or at least part of a duo like a lot of running backs have. They have, the starter
committee,
and then, committee, that's the word I was looking for. He's definitely going to be part of that for a long time, and I think any team would be lucky to have him.
That's a great take.
I'm going to look at a guy that I've talked about on the show before, Xavier Worthy from Texas. I'm a huge fan of his, not just because he went to Texas, but he is a speedy wide receiver, but he's also a multifaceted wide receiver. You got a guy in Xavier Worthy who will run your route as fast as you want him to and still be able to stop on a dime. His route running is crazy. He can also be a punt returner too. At Texas, we saw him returning punts. I think he had 371 punt return yards or something, a couple touchdowns. But he's the kind of guy that has a whole lot of stuff to him. Like, he's more than just a wide receiver, in my opinion. A lot of people don't have him going 1st round. I probably see him early 2nd round, late 1st round, if anything. But I think he's a guy that will have a good career as a wide receiver in the NFL.
Now, let's go big picture. Who do you think, as a whole, as a team, wins draft night? We'll start with you, Luke. You get to go from one favorite team to another.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bears on this one. I think combined – now, there's a big if here, though. This is if Caleb Williams lives up to the hype. I'm not huge on the Caleb Williams train, but – if he is as good as everyone says he is, and if he lives up to the hype, I don't see how this team isn't a playoff team this coming year. With the free agency that we had with Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and potentially maybe Roma Dunze or another wide receiver from this year's draft, I don't see how Caleb Williams throwing to them with the backfield of DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert, and Roschon Johnson, I don't see how that offense doesn't put up a lot of points. And we got returners on the defense with Montez Sweat on the front line, who is a dog. We have Jalen Johnson at cornerback. I just don't see how this team, who went 7-10 last year, is adding on a bunch of people. I just don't see how this team isn't a playoff team next year, in my opinion. So I think if Caleb Williams lives up to the hype, I think they're going to be the winners of draft night, far and away.
Sneaky defense too, the Bears have. And if the Bears make the playoffs, I think you have the Carolina Panthers to thank on that.
For sure.
100%. Colton, who do you think wins draft night?
I think the Bears or the Cardinals are the picks here, just because they already have 2 first-round picks, so they're going to get some guys that they want. Like I've already mentioned the Cardinals with Marvin Harrison Jr. just a second ago.
Yep.
If they get him and then they fall to I think is it 27, somewhere in the late 20s is their second pick. But yeah, I mean, they need wide receivers, so they could even draft another wide receiver at 27. I mean, guys like Brian Thomas from LSU and some other guys down there, if they fall that low, I think that could work. But they need a corner too, someone like Aaron Wiggins. Maybe Terry Arnold falls that low. I don't think so. But if they can get a corner there, I think their 2 first-round picks are going to help them a lot. But I could also see, a team like the Chiefs or the 49ers, they really need that one piece.
Right.
If they can get that in that late first-round pick, and that could, bump them up to being favorites to win the Super Bowl, I could see them being the winners of draft night as well, for sure.
I like that element of it. No one would ever think the Chiefs or the 49ers would win draft night, but it makes sense when you put it like that. Zach, who do you like?
I also think the Bears, not fully, but a lot of the Caleb Williams hype has to be included in that because he's been the overall pick since 2 seasons ago. They were saying he was going to go number 1. But also I like to see, I know that the Texans don't have a draft pick tonight, but overall, if they can add to the team that they've been adding on this offseason, I think they could potentially be the winners because, I mean, of all the guys that they've added, plus they just added Stephon Diggs, I mean, this team, it's going to win the AFC South and has a potential to be in the division round.
Absolutely. I mean, it feels like the Texans are the new Lions in that everyone seems to love them. They haven't made anyone angry yet. But that's going to wrap up our draft discussion. That's going to wrap up our time here in the studio. Thank you so much for watching. We wish all of our Vols that are going to hopefully get drafted, probably not tonight, later days, yes, hopefully, but we wish them all the best of luck. Unfortunately, not only is this the last episode in the studio, it is the last episode in the studio with our friend Colton Pennington here. He's going to graduate and do better things. We're going to miss him. But we'll be in the studio on the patio, what's it called, the Circle Park, the outside park of our cool park building, whatever. We'll be up there next week, so it's not our last episode. It's just in the studio. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you want more content, you can go to us on Instagram at TorchSportsUTK and on TikTok at TorchSports. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you upstairs in, a week? We'll see you in the studio in about 4 months. Thanks for watching. Peace.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Rocky Talk. I'm your host for this week, Brendan Green, alongside Caitlin Gill and Matthew Solitsky. This week we have a ton to cover since we're just getting started with the much-anticipated 2024 NBA playoffs. We start with our first topic. The Bucks, even without Giannis, dominated the Pacers in Game 1 thanks to Dame Time's 35-point first half, but lost Game 2 at home thanks to Pascal Siakam scoring 37 points. With the series tied heading back to Indiana's for Games 3 and 4, how do you think the Bucks will fare in this series on the road without their 2-time MVP Giannis? And do you guys believe that Giannis will be able to return in time for this series? Caitlin, we'll start with you.
Well, I think this series is a matchup of a veteran squad versus a very young and hungry team. And you could see that in Game 1. Indiana looked a little shook. Pfizer was rocking. We were excited. Milwaukee wants so bad to have a second ring with Giannis, and whether or not you think we're going to get it, we're working for it. Dame has been the storyline in both games. And he's had a few people step up. We just got news that Chris Middleton has a sprained ankle, so that's another guy down with Giannis. But in terms of going back to Indiana, I think they're excited for the playoffs. But I don't know. In the second game, you could tell they're a lot faster than us. They had a lot of fast break points, 14 versus our 5, and they got a lot of energy coming into it. So I'm excited to see how it goes. I'll let you say your thing, then we'll talk about Giannis.
5-0 in the regular season were the Pacers against the Bucks, and that's just because they're young, but also they're a very good offensive team.
Yeah.
Probably the best in the league, in my opinion. I mean, they just rack up points. They don't get to the line and get their points. They get it on the 3, they get it in the paint, they get it however they want. They're very good at getting their spots. And a lot of that comes from, good coaching. And 2, they have a lot of guys that are not selfish. They share the basketball. So when you play a team like the Bucks, who are a good defensive team, poorly coached in Doc Rivers, 17-19 record in his time after taking over for Griffin, you look at it one of 2 ways. Either A, you're saying, okay, the way we beat this team is by trying to hold them to under 110 points, because they were scoring 120, 130. You got to hold them to under 110 points. Now, that's the norm in the NBA. The officiating has changed, right? So you got to keep them off the free throw line, force them to play you one-on-one, force them to play you in ISO basketball, and defensively, that's how you beat the Pacers. But the other way you look at it is you need your star players back, right? They're without Giannis. We're not doctors. I don't know when Giannis is coming back, nor am I Shams. I don't know that stuff. But if he comes back or he doesn't come back, the Bucks are certainly capable to beat the Pacers without him. Chris Middleton possibly being out certainly is a big detriment to that team, but we don't know anything to this point. I would say this. When you're looking at a Bucks team, and by the way, to your point about Pfizer form, the comment by
Jordan Love was there.
I'm sure he was.
Was it Bobby Portis that said something about like?
No, it was Halliburton.
Oh, Halliburton.
What?
Yeah.
So
Halliburton was talking about that he's seen Indiana Pacer regular season basketball games with better atmosphere.
Oh,
than
BS.
Milwaukee playoff games.
BS.
And I'll tell you what, it's possibly true.
It's
I've
not
said all
true.
year, the fan base sucks.
What?
The city sucks.
What?
Everything about Milwaukee is horrible.
Okay, you're a hater for
Cold,
starters.
it's icy.
Pfizer is
There's
such a
nothing
dude.
you want there in Milwaukee other than cheese. You barely have
Okay,
cell
not wrong.
service, okay? So you don't want Milwaukee. But we're not here to
That
talk
is not
about
true.
the fans.
That is
We're
not
not
true.
here to talk about
Pfizer
the
Forum is so much fun. I literally, finals.
Yeah,
Granted,
finals.
you think it's fake finals, whatever.
Fake
We
finals.
won it. I was
20,
at game
2021.
4.
Easiest
Whatever.
finals.
I was there. Pfizer's a rockin' stadium.
Yeah.
Milwaukee fans are so
you
dedicated.
weren't watching the game. You were paying attention to Jordan Love. But yeah.
He posted.
Yeah.
He was with the whole team.
Yeah, you weren't paying
AJ Dillon
attention.
and Christian Watson were there too. Bro, I watched minute to minute the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let
All right, everyone. Let's speaking
Okay,
of
but
that,
Giannis-
let's move on
Giannis.
to our next segment here.
Well, no,
Can
I
I
want to
say
hear.
one
I
thing
want to
about
hear.
Giannis?
Go. Yeah. What you
Giannis.
think about Giannis?
To your point, we don't necessarily need him in the series.
Yeah.
I think that was the move in game 2 is if you don't need him, no point, get him more
Yeah.
rest days. And now they're obviously going on the road, so you get a few more days. Right now, he's reported
Right.
he cannot practice.
Yeah.
So I think you rule it game 3. Giannis ain't going to let us lose without him being in. If we lose the next game, Giannis is going to be in. But people have to step up. Bobby didn't have a bad game. Brooke Lopez stepped up. So I think it's just Indiana's going to have a lot
yeah.
of heat under them in their own.
If you think I'm not
going
responding to
Indiana.
this, you're crazy.
I think that
I'm interested to see what you're going to say.
There's a quote I want to bring up, very important quote. We could talk about this for 8 minutes, by the way. This could be the whole show. Important quote. I was scrolling through TikTok the other day, and some girl that does TikTok, she's just
Oh, God.
She was talking about the other day. She said, Giannis will not let the Bucks lose. He won't let the Bucks lose if it's in his power. And I thought it was a very interesting quote because, for one, Giannis is the whole reason this team has been so poor because he threatens to leave
Poor.
and you get
When
you
has
get
Giannis
extensions.
threatened to leave?
Oh, he's threatened to leave 4 times.
No. All those rumors came out, and he said, I never once said I was going to leave Milwaukee.
Threatens
That
to
is
leave.
not true.
Threatens
People
to
make
leave
that
in the
up.
offseason. Then you trade for Holiday
When
and Tucker.
no,
Signs
no.
extension. Following
When
year,
has
gives
Giannis
up a
ever
3-2
threatened
lead
to
to
leave?
Boston.
Never.
Threatens to leave again. Signs a bunch of good role
Who's
players.
threatened?
Loses stuff.
Reports or Giannis said it?
Loses
'Cause he
in
never
5
said
as the
this.
number 1 seed in Miami. Threatens to leave again. Resigns his brother. Trades for Dame. Wants Griffin fired. Then hires Doc Rivers, who's 17 and 19 in
Hey,
his
he didn't
time with the
hire
Milwaukee
him.
Bucks. But he wanted
He
Griffin
liked
gone.
Bud.
He wanted Griffin gone.
Well,
He had
yeah,
a
'cause our
30 and
defense is
13
so
record.
low.
He had a
Okay,
30 and
okay,
13
okay.
record.
What do you wanna say
Giannis
about
wanted him
Griffin?
gone. Giannis
Okay,
wanted his
okay.
brother there. Giannis wanted this. Giannis
Well, he
wanted
wants
that.
the Nets
You want to
because
know
that's
why
bro code.
Milwaukee's in the crapper? It's because of
We
Giannis.
are in the playoffs,
You're in the
and we got
crapper
second
because
in
of
the
Giannis.
East.
And you're going to lose to the Pacers. You're going to lose just like you
We're
lost
not gonna
last year to the
lose.
Heat. Remember that?
Okay, yeah, you want to talk
You
about
want
the
to talk
Heat?
about the year before
You
when you
wanna
gave
talk
up a
about the
3-2
Heat?
lead to Boston?
Who's screwed?
Okay, who's screwed? I'll tell you who's screwed. Milwauke's screwed. They've been
You're
screwed
playing
since
the
day
Celtics,
one.
we're playing
All
the
right,
Pacers.
everybody.
Screwed since
We're
day
fine.
one.
All right, everybody. Unfortunately, because we used all that time on the first topic, we have no time for the second topic. So
do
that'll
another
do
4
it for
minutes.
this week's episode of Torch Sports. We are, I believe, 3 hours away from the 2024 NFL Draft, so make sure you tune in tonight to watch the first round. I'm Brendan Green alongside Matthew Solitsky and
Horrible
Caitlin Gill,
city.
and we will see you next
Horrible
time.
fans.
See ya.
What did I